It's pretty clear that life on Earth is governed by laws. We have the law of gravity, for example. If you step off the roof of the building, you're going to get a consequence from not obeying that law. If you throw a rock up over your head and it comes down and hits you in the head, makes you bleed, there's no reason to complain about God to God or complain about the laws. We must understand the laws that govern our life here on Earth and try to coordinate with them, cooperate with them, so we don't have negative consequences. Well, the main law of Earth is the law of cause and effect. It's what Christ said, what you sow, so shall you reap. It's what scientists call the law of relativity. Every action has an equal opposite reaction. So this is the law that governs us. So we can't ignore it any more than we can ignore the law of gravity. We have to know what we do comes back to us in exactly the same proportion. Christ said you can't even give a cup of water away that is not returned to you. So think about when you give a slap or an insult or a negative comment to somebody, you're going to get that back. It's as if we live in a round domed room and every word we speak echoes back to us. That's the law of cause and effect. Whatever we send out will come back to us. That applies for thoughts, words, desires, actions, everything. Even if you don't express the thought, it still has an effect. It still has a ripple effect and will eventually return to you. The law of attraction is another one of the great universal laws that determines how our life comes out here in this world, but even more so in the next world. That is working here on Earth, but it's even working even stronger. It's even more predominant in the higher planes of existence. But here, the law of attraction is this. If you want something, you'll find it eventually. If you have a desire for anything, you will eventually receive it. Maybe if it's not possible in this life, you'll receive it in another life. And basically, it's just you set up a vibration by wanting something, for example. Whatever you want will be brought across your path given enough time. If it's a situation like, oh, I want to be president of the United States and you're 50 years old, it's not going to happen in this lifetime. It's going to take a lot of work behind that, a lot of energizing of that desire for it to ever come into effect. So if, for example, if you want to know about God and you want to find somebody who can teach you about this, you will eventually be brought across the path of some teaching or some teacher who will help you understand these things. If you want to be the best criminal and learn how to break into banks, there's somebody out there who will be attracted to you to teach you that. But that's going to give you a consequence. Maybe eventually you'll get arrested and thrown in jail and you realize, oh, I shouldn't have wanted that. So this is a good reason why we check our desires, because whatever we ask for, we will receive. The most important thing is to understand how this law works, this law of attraction works. And then, the second most important thing, really, I think this is maybe the most important thing, is to make sure that whatever you're desiring, whatever you're wanting, is worthwhile. It's not needless, it's not silly, it's not harmful. If you do that, then you will work very consciously with this law and bring the things to you that uplift you, the things that improve your life instead of degrade your life. As we all know, that movie, The Secret, was about the law of attraction. And they use that saying to you, if you want something, visualize it, keep doing it, and it will come to you. But what they didn't tell you is the law of attraction is a two-edged sword. We're trying to reduce unnecessary desires, especially worldly desires for fame and glory and money, that kind of thing. But if you think you can get that using the law, maybe you can, but it's creating a monstrous desires in us. That desire grows really, really big. And if it gets big enough, it can take a temporary possession over the personality. That's why we always hear the saying, be careful what you wish for, because you're going to get it one day. Maybe not this lifetime, but one day you will. So we want to make sure that what we wish for is worthy of our attention, worthy of our time on earth. When we create a desire for something, that creates a vibration. And it's actually an energy, a vibratory energy that goes out and starts to attract the very thing we want back to us. The problem is sometimes we will create things will create aversions to things. That too is a vibration that goes out that brings that to us. It doesn't discriminate. It's whatever you're vibrating with gets attracted to you. That means if we fear something strong enough and long enough, it will come up. It'll keep showing up. I knew this one fellow in India, Swami, and he had this terrible fear of snakes. And everywhere he went, snakes were always coming up. Sometimes they'd come up from behind him and everything, and he'd freak out. And his master used to laugh at him and says, "Why are you pulling all these snakes to you?" He was pulling them to him by just fearing them. So be careful what you fear. Be careful what you're against, because you tend to bring that into your life so that you can overcome it. Because we shouldn't go through life with a lot of fears about things. We should overcome our fears. From the tiniest microbe to the great galaxies, it's clear there's another law controlling or governing, let's say, these things. And that law is the law of balance. The universe will not tolerate imbalance. If there's an imbalance anywhere, it has to be rebalanced, because that's the law. It's the law of order and balance. It's one of the great universal laws. So this plays into human interactions. If we misbalance the law, if we hurt somebody else, we've thrown this law of balance out of order. And so there has to be a consequence, something that comes back to balance that law. And the balancing of this law usually comes to human beings as pain, suffering. If we misbalance the law physically, we take something from another, we're going to have something taken from us, and that comes with some degree of pain to restore the balance. If it's an emotional thing, we hurt someone emotionally, say some mean stuff that really devastates somebody, we set the balance. And so the balance has to be restored by us getting that kind of consequence back to us. Same thing mentally. But the nice thing about it is it's an exact proportion. It's an exact proportion. Even in this world, our laws we try to set up to be proportional. For example, if you steal a car, you don't get the sentence of death. It's proportional to the violation you've made. One of the first laws is the law of Oblivion. And the law of Oblivion breaks the continuity between our lifetimes in terms of our memory of those lifetimes. It separates that, so we don't remember everything that happened in a previous lifetime. We don't remember hardly anything that happened in a previous lifetime. You can remember it if you reach back to the soul level. If you raise your consciousness high enough, you can get that information. For the common person, it's separated from them by the law of Oblivion. Plato called it, he described it metaphorically as every soul coming into the world has to pass through the river of forgetfulness. This is the law of Oblivion. And why would we ever have that? Why would that be? Well, one reason is to take away the memory of our past mistakes. If you could remember every mistake you had in thousands of lifetimes, you would be crushed in this lifetime. So really, the law of Oblivion is God's mercy. So we can start new and make better steps ahead and not remember the past. Just think about really something you've done really wrong in this lifetime. That's a guilty weight on us, most people. So if you had every one of those from every lifetime, it would just crush the personality and it couldn't make its steps forward. So the law of Oblivion is the mercy of God so that we can proceed less encumbered in this incarnation. The law of one. And every one of us is violating that law all the time, day and night. And the law of one is really what is called the common selfhood. That we as humanity are but drops in a single stream, a life stream called humanity. So we're really all one. But down here on earth, we feel separate from everybody. We feel separate from each other, we feel separate from God, and we feel separate from ourselves. The law of one states that we are one. So whatever we do to another, we've done to ourselves. And so that's why we should really be careful, very careful of how we treat our fellow human beings, because whatever we do to them, we're really doing it to ourselves. Again, that plays into the law of cause and effect, the law of karma, because it comes back to us. If you slap somebody, you have set up the vibration to be slapped. If you steal from somebody, you will be stolen from. It's so simple. It's such a simple, basic law, but people are violating it all the time. So instead of seeing each other as separates, we should try to cultivate the consciousness of seeing ourselves in them. This is what Christ was saying, love one another, love your neighbor as yourself, because he is yourself, really. And when Christ said neighbor, he didn't mean people living next to him, he meant every other human being. The law of destiny states that whatever happens to us, we've created it. On earth right now, there's a great culture of victimhood where we feel the victim of somebody else. Nobody's a victim. There are no victims, because we're creating the very things that come to us. We're creating the very causes that result in an effect coming to us. And this is what determines our destiny. And this is also why we say there are no coincidences, because what happens next is based on what we're doing right now or in the past. So don't think that, coincidentally something's happening. It's not. It's happening because of what we've been doing in the past. Maybe we don't even recognize it when it comes to it. A lot of times you'll hear people say, I wanted to do this, and then I met somebody who helped me do this. That's not a coincidence. That's the law of destiny. But, it's the old saying is, sow a thought, you reap a word. Sow a word, you reap an action. Sow an action, you reap a habit. Sow a habit, you reap a character. This is the destiny part of it. This is what we're doing. We're creating by what we're saying, thinking, feeling, and wanting all the time. And it's shaping our life. It's creating habits in our life that eventually come to determine the character we have in life. This is the law of destiny. These laws are interconnected, and they play out in different ways according to the needs of the person. See, all this is happening for us. It's happening for us. Why? To help us reach the truth, come out of our illusions and help us reach the truth. When we reach the truth, we get freed of our suffering. And that's the whole point.